Okay, so have you ever intentionally skipped breakfast, maybe pushed lunch back, and noticed that feeling? You go past just being hungry, maybe feel, I don't know, a little sharper.
Uh-huh.
It
Yeah.
really makes you wonder, right? What's actually going on deep inside your body when you do that? It feels like it's way more than just, burning
Oh,
calories.
absolutely. You're hitting on something fundamental. We're shifting the conversation from just calories in, calories out to what's happening at the cellular level.
Right.
And our mission today really is to take a deep dive into this amazing process. It's called autophagy. We want to unpack the science behind it, look at the frankly staggering potential benefit.
Yeah, I saw some of those in the source material. Pretty incredible.
They really are. And crucially, we want to talk about balance, how you can use things like fasting or even just lifestyle tweaks effectively and safely.
Okay, autophagy. The name itself sounds a bit intense.
It does. It's Greek, basically means self-eating.
Self-eating. Okay, that does sound a little alarming.
Yeah, but don't worry. It's not like the cell is just randomly cannibalizing itself. Think of it as the cell's own highly sophisticated internal recycling program. It's absolutely essential for keeping everything stable inside what scientists call homeostasis.
So it's cleaning house.
Exactly. And if we can optimize this house cleaning, the potential health benefits are just huge. We're talking potentially reduced risks for major things like heart disease, diabetes, even some cancers. Plus, it seems really important for protecting brain health and keeping your immune system strong.
Wow. That's a really compelling list. So if it's self-eating, how does a cell actually, do that? What does it look like under a microscope?
Well, it's a very orderly process, actually. We can break it down into maybe three main functions. First, and this is key, is elimination of waste.
Okay.
So your cells have these tiny components inside, organelles, doing specific jobs.
Hmm.
Sometimes they get old, damaged, or just aren't working right. Autophagy identifies these dysfunctional parts.
Like little bits of cellular junk?
Pretty much. Damaged proteins, worn out organelles, it tags them and basically gets rid of them before they can cause bigger problems or clog up the works.
Right. Like taking out the trash before it piles up. Makes sense. What's the second function?
That would be nutrient recycling. This is the really clever part. It doesn't just throw the trash away. It breaks down those damaged or unnecessary components
Yeah.
into their basic building blocks.
So it salvages the useful bits.
Exactly. It gets essential nutrients, amino acids, fatty acids from that breakdown.
Mm.
And then the cell can reuse those raw materials to build new, healthy components or generate energy. It's incredibly efficient resource management.
Okay, so it cleans and recycles. Very neat. And the third function you mentioned, the stress response.
Yes, the stress response. This is where things like fasting come in. Autophagy gets strongly triggered when the cell faces challenges like a lack of nutrients, starvation essentially, or even low oxygen.
So hardship triggers it.
Precisely. It forces the cell into a kind of survival mode. By recycling internal components, the cell can generate energy and materials it needs when external resources are scarce. It helps the cell adapt, conserve energy, and ultimately survive tough conditions.
Okay, now this is where I think it gets really interesting for people listening. Connecting that cellular process to these major health outcomes you listed, like neurological protection. The sources mentioned Alzheimer's, Parkinson's.
Yes, that's a major area of research.
Yeah.
In many neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, a key problem is the buildup of, well, misfolded or aggregated proteins inside neurons. Think of them like sticky clumps of junk gumming up the works.
Okay.
Autophagy's job is specifically to clear out these protein aggregates. So the thinking is, if we can keep autophagy working efficiently, especially as we age, it might help prevent or slow down that harmful accumulation in brain cells.
Wow, that's huge. And what about the immune system? Does cleaning house help us fight off bugs better?
It seems so, yes. When autophagy is running smoothly, your immune system appears to get a significant boost. It's better at clearing out pathogens like viruses and bacteria that might invade cells. And some studies suggest it even helps speed up the production of antibodies, so stronger defenses overall.
It really sounds like this fundamental process we should all be trying to maximize then.
Well, here's where we need to introduce some important nuance. Autophagy is incredibly powerful, yes, but it's all about balance. More isn't always better.
Okay, so there's a catch. If it's a survival mechanism, how can there be too much of a good thing?
It's a bit of a paradox. Let's look at both sides. If you have too little autophagy happening over time, that's clearly bad.
Right, the junk piles up.
Exactly. Waste accumulates, cellular functions get disrupted. And this buildup of cellular debris is linked to aging and many chronic diseases. It can even contribute to the development of tumors because damaged cells aren't getting cleared out.
Okay, so not enough is definitely a problem. What about the other extreme? Too much.
Too much autophagy, or autophagy happening at the wrong time, can also be detrimental. A really important example is in cancer.
How so?
Well, cancer cells are masters of survival, right?
Yeah.
They can actually hijack the autophagy process. They ramp it up to help them survive stressful conditions like, say, chemotherapy treatments or low oxygen environments within a tumor. They essentially use the cell's own cleanup system to stay alive and resist treatment.
Wow. Okay, so they turn our own defense mechanism against us.
In some cases, yes. So the goal isn't just to crank autophagy up to 11 all the time. It's about maintaining a healthy rhythm, a dynamic balance between breaking down the old and building the new.
That makes sense. Rhythm and balance.
So focusing on activating it when we want that cleanup, how do we actually flip that switch? The source material was pretty clear. Fasting seems to be the most direct route.
That's generally considered the most potent and reliable way to induce a strong autophagic response, yes. When you fast, you create that nutrient scarcity we talked about.
And that triggers specific changes, right? Physiologically. Exactly. It sets off a cascade. First, obviously, is the reduced nutrient availability. Cells sense they aren't getting external fuel, so they look inwards. That's the primary stress signal.
And that lack of incoming food changes our hormones too, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. That's the second key trigger. A shifting hormone balance. Insulin levels drop significantly. Insulin is a storage hormone, and it actively inhibits autophagy. When insulin is low, it's like a green light for the cleanup crew.
Okay, so low insulin is permissive.
Right. And at the same time, another hormone, glucagon, tends to rise. Glucagon does the opposite. It promotes the breakdown of stored energy, like glycogen in the liver, and it also seems to actively signal for autophagy to ramp up.
So hormones are like the managers directing the process.
You could think of it that way. And the overall effect is energy conservation and resource management. The body shifts from building and storing to conserving and recycling. It's entering that survival mode to operate efficiently.
It's fascinating, but it's probably important to mention, like the sources did, that while the mechanisms are becoming clearer, especially from animal studies, we still need more long-term human studies on intentionally inducing autophagy through fasting.
Absolutely crucial point. Most of the deep mechanistic work is from cell culture or animal models. Human studies are complex, but essential. We need to be cautious about extrapolating too much, especially regarding long-term effects or specific disease outcomes in humans.
Right. But for people interested in trying to leverage this now, based on current understanding, what are the practical ways people fast to potentially stimulate autophagy?
Okay, yeah, let's break down the common approaches. They generally fall into a few categories, kind of on a spectrum of intensity. The mildest, most sustained approach is probably calorie restriction, or CR.
So just eating less consistently.
Pretty much. It usually means reducing your overall daily calorie intake by maybe 10% to 40%, but doing it consistently over a very long time, years even. The idea is a constant low-level stress that keeps cleanup pathways generally more active.
Okay. Then you have the intermittent fasting methods, which seem really popular.
They are. And there are several variations here. Probably the most common is time-restricted feeding, TRF. This is where you only eat within a specific window each day. The 168 method is a classic example. You fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window.
Right, like skipping breakfast and only eating between noon and 8 p.m.
Exactly. Then there's Eat, Stop, Eat, ESE. This involves doing a full 24-hour fast, maybe once or twice a week. So you'd finish dinner one day and not eat again until dinner the next day.
And during that 24 hours, just water.
Water, yes. Black coffee or plain tea without sugar or milk are usually considered acceptable as they don't significantly impact insulin or provide calories.
Okay. And the other popular one is the 5.2 diet.
Right, the 5.2 diet. With this one, you eat normally for 5 days of the week, but on 2 non-consecutive days, you drastically restrict your calories, usually down to around 500 or 600 calories. It's not a full fast, but a significant reduction.
And for the most intense effect.
That's where extended fasting comes in. We're talking about fasts lasting longer than, say, 48 hours, sometimes 3 days, 5 days, or even longer under medical supervision. This sustained lack of nutrients is thought to induce the deepest and most prolonged autophagic response.
But this is where we need that big warning label, right?
Absolutely critical. Extended fasting is not something to undertake lightly. Going without nutrients for that long carries real risks, potential muscle loss, significant hormonal shifts, electrolyte imbalances. It absolutely requires careful planning and ideally should be done only after consulting with a healthcare professional who understands your individual health status. It's not for everyone.
Okay, that's a really important caution. So fasting is a powerful tool, but worry not practical or desirable for everyone all the time. What about day-to-day life? Can we influence this process without actually skipping meals entirely?
Yes, definitely. While fasting might be the strongest trigger, other lifestyle factors absolutely play a role. What you eat during your eating window matters a lot.
How so? Can certain foods help?
They can. The focus here is often on foods rich in polyphenols. These are natural compounds found in plants that have antioxidant and cell protective effects. And importantly, many of them seem to gently stimulate autophagy pathways.
Polyphenols. Okay, what kinds of foods are we talking about? Give us some examples.
Think vibrant colors and sometimes slightly bitter tastes. Green tea is a big one, largely due to a compound called EGCG. Red wine, or more accurately, the resveratrol found in grape skins. Things like nuts, onions, apples, berries, especially dark berries.
Spices too, right. I think turmeric came up.
Yeah, turmeric, specifically curcumin. Also compounds in things like soybeans and even milk thistle. Including a variety of these polyphenol-rich foods in your regular diet might provide a kind of low-level ongoing boost to cellular cleanup.
That's good news. Now, what about protein? This seems like a tricky one. We need it to build muscle, especially for exercising, but I remember reading high protein intake can suppress autophagy. How do people navigate that?
Yes, the protein paradox. It's a real balancing act, especially for athletes or anyone focused on maintaining muscle mass. You're right, high protein intake signals nutrient abundance to the body, particularly via pathways like mTOR, and that tends to switch off autophagy.
But you need the protein building blocks after the cleanup happens.
Exactly. You need those amino acids to repair and build new tissues, including muscle. So the general recommendation emerging is usually moderate protein intake. Something around, say, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight is a common guideline, though needs vary. And crucially, timing matters.
How so?
Consuming your protein primarily within your eating window, rather than spread throughout the day or late at night, seems best. This allows for periods without that strong protein signal, giving autophagy a chance to run, while still providing the necessary building blocks when you're eating to support muscle.
Okay, moderate protein, timed right. Now, the question many people might be wondering about their morning routine: coffee. Does black coffee shut down autophagy during a fast?
The coffee question. Good news for most coffee lovers. Current research suggests that black coffee, without sugar or cream, likely does not significantly inhibit autophagy.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, some studies, mostly in animal models so far, suggest that certain compounds in coffee might even stimulate autophagy in various tissues like the liver, muscle, and heart. So your plain black coffee during a fast is probably okay, and maybe even slightly beneficial. More research is needed in humans, but the initial signs are positive.
That's a relief for many, I'm sure. Okay, moving beyond diet. What about other lifestyle strategies? You mentioned exercise earlier.
Yes, exercise is a fantastic, non-dietary way to stimulate autophagy. Think of it as another form of beneficial stress on your cells, especially muscle cells.
What kind of exercise works best?
Both high-intensity interval training, HIIT, and longer-duration moderate-intensity exercise, like jogging or cycling, have been shown to increase markers of autophagy. Some evidence suggests that the intensity might be a particularly strong trigger, perhaps even more so than short-term fasting for muscle autophagy.
Interesting. So pushing yourself physically tells your muscles to clean house.
That seems to be the mechanism, yes. It helps clear out damaged components accumulated during exercise and promotes muscle adaptation and repair.
Okay, exercise is key. What about stress, like mental or emotional stress? If we're trying to use controlled stress, like fasting or exercise, is chronic, everyday stress bad for autophagy?
Oh, absolutely counterproductive.
Yeah.
Chronic stress pumps out hormones like cortisol, and high sustained cortisol levels appear to hinder autophagy. It disrupts that delicate hormonal balance needed for cellular repair.
So managing stress is actually part of optimizing this.
Definitely. Practices like meditation, deep breathing exercises, yoga, spending time in nature, whatever helps you manage chronic stress can create a more favorable internal environment for autophagy and overall cellular health.
Makes sense. And finally, the basics we always come back to: sleep and hydration.
Non-negotiable pillars, really. Sleep is critical. Aiming for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night is when a lot of the body's repair and cleanup processes, including in the brain, are most active. Your brain literally clears out metabolic waste during sleep.
So skimping on sleep directly interferes with this cleanup.
It certainly seems to. And hydration is fundamental too. Water is essential for pretty much every bodily process. It's the medium for transporting nutrients and flushing out waste products. Enzymes involved in autophagy need adequate hydration to function properly. Simple, but crucial.
So we've covered fasting, diet, exercise, stress, sleep. It seems like a holistic picture, but you mentioned earlier it's all about balance and nuance. Does this process work the same way for everyone?
That's a really key point to end on. It's highly personalized. How effectively your body initiates and carries out autophagy can vary quite significantly from person to person. What works wonders for one individual might have a different effect on another.
What are the main things causing that individual variation?
Several factors come into play. Age is a big one. Generally, the efficiency of autophagy tends to decline as we get older. That's likely one reason why cellular damage accumulates with age. But activating it is still beneficial for older adults.
So it might be even more important to support it as we age.
Potentially, yes. Then there's genetics. Some people might just inherit genes that make their autophagy machinery naturally more or less efficient.
Okay, age and genes. What about our overall health? Does having other conditions affect it?
Massively. This ties back to what we discussed earlier. Overall health status and hormones are critical. Chronic conditions, particularly those related to metabolic health like obesity or type 2 diabetes, often involve insulin resistance.
Right, where the body doesn't respond properly to insulin.
Exactly. And since we know high insulin levels actively inhibit autophagy, if someone has chronic high insulin due to resistance, their ability to naturally trigger this cleanup process, even during fasting periods, can be significantly impaired. Glucagon signaling might also be affected.
So managing underlying metabolic health, especially insulin sensitivity, is fundamental to allowing autophagy to even happen effectively.
That's probably one of the most actionable takeaways. Improving insulin sensitivity through diet, exercise, and weight management might be a prerequisite for many people to really benefit from autophagy-boosting strategies like intermittent fasting. It's all interconnected.
That really pulls it all together. So while fasting is a powerful lever, it's not the only one. A truly balanced, personalized approach, considering your age, your health, managing insulin, exercising, sleeping well, that seems like the most sustainable path to optimizing this whole cellular health system. So the big picture here is that autophagy isn't some fringe diet trend. It's this incredibly sophisticated, built-in cleaning and recycling system that our bodies rely on for long-term health, resilience, and maybe even longevity.
Absolutely. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. We've talked a lot about autophagy as a response to stress, particularly nutrient deprivation. But if you think about it as fundamentally a survival and repair mechanism triggered by controlled stress,
How might understanding that deliberate survival mode change how you approach your daily routine, even when you're not fasting? Could you perhaps incorporate other small, controlled stressors, like that burst of intense exercise, maybe a cold shower? Focus deep breathing as ways to consciously trigger these repair pathways more regularly, rather than solely relying on longer periods of fasting to force the issue. It's about working with your body's natural stress and repair cycles,